Hey friends. Oh boy. Again, you're not going to know this, but I'm a little late because whenever you're watching this, but it's 10:04. I'm not that late. As late as I could be given the season that I've been having. So, this is my first live stream in 2026. It's my first live in 2026. It's also my first live stream probably since like maybe 4 months ago. I've tried to go live stream with these new changes in my life. If you're not someone who follows along in my stories, is really where I share most of my real life stuff. That I am a new dog mom. I moved. I took in my technically my niece, but now she's mine. All in a 2-week span, and guess what? It was hard. It is hard. I've been struggling. I've had to adjust my gym schedule. I've had to adjust my whole life. I am still building community here in the new town that I live in, but it's going well. It's going well. But I wanted to come back and start doing more of my live streams in 2026. One, because I got a new camera. And I've been investing in myself little by little, not only just the new camera, but if you follow along on my various different socials, I've started my modeling journey about a year ago. It's going well. I'm taking it literally step by step, kind of learning the industry, managing the business in my industry that I have. So yeah, it's been life. Life has been life, and let alone all of the life that's going on outside of like just my own personal life. I went into 2026 with this, very individually focused, like affirmative plan, because that is what I not only do I need, but that is also what mental health needs to be. Mental health also needs to be growing to awareness, but it's also knowing your limits to awareness. And we went into 2026 kind of like, oh, okay, cool. It's going to be better than 2025, right? And then murders started happening. Then reality started setting back in. And I think this is more of a time, technically, this is promo for my business. But why I think my business is extremely needed right now is because there has to be a skill building experience to therapy. There has to be, and there's a lot of work that we do in therapy. That's why it is a long-term relationship that I build with people, is because you can't change things all at once. But so literally my journey that you guys have watched, me transforming my life, my body, whatever the case may be, it was me practicing my therapeutic journey. It was me practicing what I preach. I would tell people, and I'd listen to myself in sessions, and I was like, okay, you got to pause. You got to take little breaks every day. Da, 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 da. And so I started doing that. That helped me build self-safety, is like trusting that I wasn't just go, 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 go and driving too fast and literally moving too fast in my life, right? And then I slowly started moving my body and building muscle. Then I started with the relationship with my food to manage my binge eating and my emotional eating. And I had to do it in phases, right? That took me years. I got results along the way that weren't necessarily, something that someone else would appreciate, but they were things that I appreciated. I have been on a diet, and this is not just going to be about diet, but I want to lead up to is like, okay, what is right size perspective? My company, it's for the people. Like, what does it really mean, right? What are you getting into when you sign me on as your therapeutic coach? And I'm going to go back and reference more my story of when you take the time for yourself, you start to realize just how much labor you're doing for other people. And that's not going to stop, but it has to shift. And I had to take a look at, because I am in a public service role, even in private practice, and doing this more glorified sense of what work looks like, because yes, I can make my own schedule. I'm an entrepreneur, whatever the case may be, but that doesn't mean that I can do anything that I want to. I have failed in these it's about 7 years, because I remember it was January. I wish I had brought my journal from the time just to reference, but it was January, I believe, of 2019, when I really started taking my health and my mental health seriously. And I remember it being something that it wasn't just going to the gym. I haven't been in the gym, but maybe like 4 years. I took 3 years and a year, it was a year before COVID, and then those 2 years after COVID. And I really focused on how did I need to navigate through my life. And that required me to slow down. It required me to take the time to pause and journal, or and journaling was a big one from the get-go. However, it was also emotionally exhausting. So I'm really wanting to introduce people to right size perspective at the beginning of 2026, because what I really had to do in that pause is I kind of pulled open. I know this is a weird point of, yeah, yes, you're looking at it, but I pulled open this space in between myself, between just internalizing everything, because I was growing to the size, to capacity that I was internalizing. And I had to create this space that I had a sense. We call it self safety, we call it the wise mind, we call it um, the adult ego, is what I also call it, is that I had to recalibrate. I had to rebalance. And so I had chosen right size perspective because it was actually one of my family members who reminded me that it's a 12-step term, and they use it to right size their thinking. And I don't want to steal, I want to give credit for where it's due, but it's a word, which is why I'm not trademarking it. But it is the the meaning of it is to optimize. I was not an individual that could see myself doing business to get to where I wanted to be, to the lifestyle that I wanted, given the circumstances of how I treated myself, mentally, physically, and emotionally. I was extremely self-critical. I was sabotaging everywhere, and that's not very optimizing. You don't get very far every time you stall for on yourself because fear made the decision for you. So I took these last 7 years, some of which were me really figuring out, okay, what do I preach is a non-negotiable? And it's taken me this long because I went out and lived my life and I tested it. And the things that y'all don't know behind the scenes that happened confirmed a lot of my content that I'm releasing now in 2026. For example, I had a whole business partnership that most people didn't realize. They thought I was just hanging out and just having fun in life. No, I was actually trying to start a business with someone and it failed. I had to declare bankruptcy for it. And I don't publicly talk about that because for a long time I was trying to protect someone that I cared about and that clearly didn't care about me. So it was like like a business is like a marriage, but I chose a person who didn't actually respect that. What else happened? And I don't mean just in the last year, but I just mean testing myself out there, trying to take a risk, be courageous, live vulnerably. But the work I had to do before that was really going inward and understanding how I needed to self regulate, how I needed to update my thinking, to optimize that every single time I made a mistake, I couldn't just spiral and not get back to the playing board of my life, right? So, and that in itself became a nutritional issue. I had to look at why I was choosing to go for convenience foods or foods that were high in processed sugar and why they were causing me illness. Illness being not only just mental illness and like brain fog, but literally like slow dopamine craving, right? So anyways, I say all that to say that that time that I took is what you see me here now. You see the blonde curled hair, you see me taking pictures, see me, first of all, I don't believe in modeling to be about taking a picture. I believe it to be something about meaning, to show artwork and projecting my mission into not only just this industry, but for you all to see that mental health requires you to go live your life, but it requires you to build skills. It requires you to be yourself, but to be yourself intentionally with those skills. Okay. And I think we're running into a society right now where this was set long before we ever voted into the office, unfortunately, because their people are easily manipulated, and myself included. And we are now living something, a deconstruction in order to reconstruct it and recover it. And it's going to take some work. It's going to take individual work. I've said this long before, so I'm not going to fully repeat myself, but to right size your own perspective. That has nothing to do about how much weight you have to lose. I tried that out. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go see what it's like to be 200 pounds or 185, the way that I was told by the medical system my whole life. I got taken advantage of. So then I just did what felt good. I ate, my high protein for my brain so I could, operate at a high performance every day. I still ate my carbs. I just took out the inflammatory aspects for me, which most people are now learning that they also do not have good reactions to. All these little steps along the way, I only did because I made mistakes. Right. And so right size perspective, if you ever, come in, and what does that really look like? So programming wise, so the therapist version that guys know me as is now I have shifted to a supervisor for other therapists. Any client traditionally in terms of therapy that I take on is going to be a healthcare provider, because provider health is patient health. We cannot afford as providers to think that we know everything just because we have extreme amounts of education and burnout. If you have too much information and not enough application, you're going to burn out again. Your ego is going to protect you from like, oh yeah, I know. Because it's hard to say that we don't know something. It's hard to say, man, I learned this in school, but I really don't feel like I know anything when I sit in front of a client, right? So my individual therapy session is now partly supervision of other clinicians and doing therapy work with them. But what does that leave the general public? Well, I think because therapists are people too, and they've been through things, and they just, invested in education for themselves, the information I give them is information that you guys can have too, that you don't have to go to get a master's degree in, but you have to work the work. You have to do the work. So over these last 7 years, I've been designing a coaching program and a curriculum that honestly is scalable for me, that I can take it anywhere. If I want to sell it, I can. If I want people to benefit from it, I can. And it can go wherever I go, because if modeling brings me somewhere, because that's my mission, and that's what most people really enjoy seeing, is me living my life and being successful, which is a little intimidating, not gonna lie. But I want you guys to take my story and try to figure out how to apply it in your lives. Not exactly the same way, because my right size perspective is different than your right size perspective, but the information is the same. How you apply it is different. So so Fresh Perspective is my main coaching program, where you're going to be learning the therapeutic skills that you learn in therapy. And we kind of inverted the therapeutic, meaning I took the talking out of it. And I really, because as a therapist, when you guys come to my sessions, what am I telling y'all to do is you're sitting and you're taking time, you're reflecting. But when we talk, we're using a lot of energy in application and rehashing trauma, even in EMDR, where you're learning somatic exercises to help regulate. You're still using a lot of energy that when you go back to your life, you need that energy. So I am trying out a different way, which is, why don't you sit back? Why don't you relax or fold laundry and listen to a pre-recorded group therapy session and do your own reflection? Because I can tell you from my clinical experience previously, they love group therapy, but group therapy is not always something that either one they can get to. But sometimes it's not really the only group therapies out there. Are if you have too much of a chronic problem, like an IOP, intensive outpatient, for mental health issues that have gone too long. You don't have one that focuses specifically on what is it that motivates those issues, the self-criticism of our body, the emotional eating or the lack of eating. And that is what goes into what a therapist helps you with 1 hour per week in an outpatient setting. I don't necessarily think that's enough. And I think, if anything, it's not enough, but it's too much at the same time. And so when you sit back and you actually reflect, and I could never get anyone to journal outside of class or session, excuse me, not class, but my coaching program is more like a class where you actually take in the information and you just let yourself process and journal there, instead of talking and trying to make the therapist the journal. I am the journal for people. Okay. I would like you guys to be able to have that skill for yourself, for your life. So I'm not trying to take traditional therapy out. I'm trying to help support it and give. And eventually, I also think Fresh Perspective, because it's approved for healthcare providers, especially social workers, to take for continuing education. So you can work it for yourself, but it's naturally going to extend and help your clients, just like all of our continuing education does. But it's going to go and extend and help your clients because, and then if your clients want to involve themselves in it, it becomes a shared language. It becomes, hey, yeah, did you think about, yeah, session 4 when we were talking about the food police and all this stuff and da da da? How does that actually show up in your day to day? And naturally, it brings us back to focus on ourselves and focus on the things that we do have control over. So that space where it's like, oh, I want to just hurt everyone that's hurting people. Because I feel that too. I don't say and speak out about it every single time something happens on social media, because to be honest with you, I'm conserving my energy to the long-term change. I'm conserving my energy to, I don't know, it depends on really the people, because if y'all want me in public office, then just say so, but I'm gonna need your support first. But right now, I'm on a mission to educate people on the things that not only their parents didn't know and they couldn't teach them, they couldn't model it for them because the society that we lived in didn't have the mental health infrastructure back then. It doesn't mean that you can't hold your parents responsible for not doing well and doing good things, but in some cases, a lot of them didn't know and they didn't have access to the same resources we have today. But we all still need to heal from that. We all still need to create a space for ourselves that, regardless of anywhere we go, we respect knowing what it takes to regulate and express energy to be able, so we don't go into an emotional burnout state or a mental health illness state. We understand our limits and our predispositions to those particular scenarios, and we start living and applying the information in our lives versus just applying it in talk therapy sessions and not actually coming out and doing the work that really needs to be done slowly to change over time. Okay. I'm not saying it's going to take you 7 years. I'm not saying it's going to take you my time. I have been doing and making more mistakes, and the refinement that I'm giving y'all will hopefully give you a better action plan when you take the time to think about what those action steps look like in your life. And I will be here, as long as some of my coaches, to be able to help support and figure out what those actions look like. And then it just becomes the steps that you have to take. Okay. I was really thinking about, okay, so that's Fresh Perspective. Let me finish what else is going on. So if you've been watching my stories and also the community of Right Size Perspective, I've started posting about the self-care workshop. Well, after I had developed Fresh Perspective to be a completely virtual online program, I realized that part of my values, I'm very community based. Now, we have an online community. That is enough, especially for people who don't live close to a city, especially for people who are a little bit more socially anxious. You get to experience the sense of community without having to dive head into a live version of community. But I could not sit here and say, oh, Right Size Perspective is complete, because I didn't have myself out there. That's partly why you guys don't really see me on social media, like consistently as a social media coach. I'm not here to hack the algorithm, but hopefully the algorithm will pick me up and take me to whoever it needs to be. But I'm here to get people back out off of the screen and into their lives, answer questions, provide clarity and understanding about mental health and addiction. Because at this point, the biggest manipulation that we said is that people with only one set group of people were prone to addiction. That's not true. Our brains are designed to be addicted. I just released a new blog post with a podcast, a short clip of a podcast on research-backed discussions about how every brain is wired for addiction. But they lied, and they even lied to me and my profession to say, oh, yeah, you don't need to be understanding of all the intricacies of addiction and da 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 da. No, but then they send those people back to the most. Anyways, I'm gonna get on a soapbox. I'm gonna finish it, but it's like they send those people who are educated in social work and helping and counseling, but with no accountability to understanding that we're all potentially going to be addicted to something. We don't need to be scared. We just need to be prepared. Okay. So that's what you're going to get in Fresh Perspective. The self-care groups is the live form of that community. It's right here in the central part of North Carolina, and partly just because I moved to this place, but it's also because it's 2 hours from Charlotte, it's an hour from Raleigh, it's 2 hours from Greenville. It's 40 minutes from an airport. So if I need to hop out and go do a workshop for someone else to understand, and the live version is here for more of my live community, but it is there for continued accountability to practicing the therapeutic skills or learning the therapeutic skills and coming back and getting reminded, like, okay, self care, it is also an acronym. If you're interested in that, leave a comment on this video and we will get you the link to the introduction to self-care. I am recording the sessions and they will eventually be released, but right now it's really just exclusive to the Central North Carolina or North Carolina place. So that is kind of the main services from now on. I have my individual supervision of other clinicians because I got to help hold them accountable to creating space for themselves in this very treacherous time to help y'all. And then I also needed to have an opportunity for coaches and if counselors too, but I find that, if you need to have your own practice, I'm not trying to take that from you, but some coaches who are passionate about helping others with their mental health also need a place to help engage their business. And I can be a supportive and monitoring factor for them as well with my program. And then I needed live community and self-care and understanding and slowly peeling back those layers or being held accountable to maintaining the process of self-reflection and self-care is also now live. So I'm excited for 2026. I'm also hella scared, but that's just because everything that's going on and I feel all of that heaviness. But I think now is more a time than any that we have to really practice the skill of slowing down, creating safety for ourselves in the home that goes everywhere with you, and that is your body. You create safety in your own home, and if you're not creating safety, that probably looks like a lot of clutter, because I know for me, I've got a lot of clutter, and I still continuously practice creating self-safety, not only in my body, but even in my physical environment. And so I've been organizing my closet. That's pretty much how I've been doing that, is I've been trying to clear up my clutter, because this is just a reflection of what's going on outside and vice versa. So that is Right Size Perspective. We're here to optimize little steps and little times of self-reflection to try to bring your energy back. So that's kind of what I do. That's what's going on in 2026. I will need y'all's help to, whether it be like, share, comment. I just started a new YouTube Shorts channel to help kind of take the content that I've been creating on. So I was on PBS 3 times. Yeah, 3 times last year. And so, just those are great resources to listen to as a source of accountability, to be like, let's slowly make the commitment to really come back to self and make change in our lives. So then the bigger that projects out into the community and the government levels of change, for us all to be able to be healthier and to have better self-care, so we don't keep running into all of these issues that they really just stem from us not being, we're very evolved. Like, we're very evolved human beings, but we're not at the same time. We're not. And I say we because it's like one can't be the exception. Like, yes, I have evolved and I know how to help people, but I can't just go off and be like, oh yeah, I did it, so now y'all just have to do it. No, we all have a responsibility to each other to help. And George W. Bush used it and exploited us for it, is no one left behind, because we wanted to provide this illusion that we were coming together as a country to make sure people met the standard. And it was a lie. We didn't do it, because when we're naturally selfish beings, so when we provide success for ourselves, it's hard to go back and be like, oh, well, I can't be too successful if I can't bring people with me. And I don't mean like to your success. I mean to giving back, to making sure that the people who may not live the same lifestyle as you always do feel seen. So if you're that type of person, then I'm pretty sure that you're going to get along in the right size perspective community. You're going to be learning a lot of skills, a lot of insights, things. I use my story in my coaching program as hopefully a way for you guys to build momentum. not just to try to motivate you. Motivation, it's not a lie, but it's a short fuse, and you have a very small point of time to get something done unless you know how to build momentum. So we're just figuring out how to balance and right size your life little by little. So yeah, that's going to be my forecast for right size perspective. One of the ways that I am doing that is, so if you haven't been hearing my little drops on my stories, I did finally release my ebook. This is edition 1 of my self-care workbook. So it gives you the framework of the workshop, and it gives you it's like almost kind of a journaling book, right? That aligns itself with my 8 non-negotiables of therapeutic skills and work that you have to do to recover sustainably in your mental health. Okay. So the self-care workbook is available on my website. It should be at the bottom of the screen. You can go ahead and check that out. It's only $9.99. And if you buy the workbook, you also get a discount when you come to the workshops. So the way the workshops, I design them is that they're going to be once a month, and each part rotates. So there's technically 3 parts, but the main 2 parts of the workshop, the deep dives, they rotate once a month. So when you become part of the community and you buy the ebook, you'll be sent the calendar for which parts are on which dates. So actually January 11th, so that's in 2 days, I have part 2, which is the care part. And then February 15th, because I'm not trying to take February 14th from people, unless you really want me to, but it's not. I'm taking your Sunday already, but it's from 1 to 4. Is that the self part will come, which is all the internal reflection parts, and then the care model is the externalization, the communication, the coping skills, and all that stuff. So I have aligned all of my programming with this one acronym. So there's a lot there, but every time you come back, you can get something different. And it may confirm something for you, but if you're just needing a check-in space, you're needing a community of accountability, and you just know you need to stop lounging on the couch all day Sunday and prepare for your week, then I think the self-care workshop and the ebook will also help you out. So yes, so I'll be doing that. I'll be there. So I'm hoping to see y'all there versus to just stay on the screen and talking to a camera, which look, I love it. Look, and I made a great purchase because it is a lot better of a quality of a camera. Except y'all see, I've been doing my skincare. I got some new partnerships coming out in 2026 to announce, but I think I can announce this one. I can announce this one now because it is live. I just have to get a couple things on the admin side cleared up. But if y'all know, I'm 36 years old, right? 3 months ago, I still get smile lines, but they're gone. Guess what? I've been using some Mary Kay. I did the traditional, I just went to a skincare class, and I told myself in 36 I was going to invest in better skincare. I'm about to tell y'all a secret, okay? I was using dial soap and an exfoliating sponge and some lotion. At least I rehydrated, okay? And I was drinking my water, but the glow that it worked. It worked. I did the inner work. My skin got better. I started, nourishing myself better. My skin reflected that. And I was just using antibacterial soap, an exfoliator, and a moisturizer. It did the job. But I didn't want to keep doing it. I needed to upgrade. I wanted to shine. I don't like wearing a lot of foundation. I'm very sensory sensitive. So when I have a lot of makeup on, I'm like, I can't. This is just wash my face this morning, put moisturizer on, and I have a little concealer under my eyes because we 36, okay? But when you really start to take care of yourself from the inside out, it shows. And then you glow, okay? So I have so much going on, but I think it's all good. I need your help. If you want to support mental health, start working on yourself. You can either sign up for the membership, or you can share this with someone who you know really needs the accountability. I find myself hopefully compassionate, but I am a hard ass too, okay? We're doing the work, and we're going to do it at your own pace and your own speed, but you're also going to make sure that no one's going to leave you behind, okay? So my new goal in 26 too is to make content that's not as long. So we're at 30 minutes right now. I'm out. Go enjoy your Fridays, but also make some time for yourself to rest mentally and physically. And I will see y'all next time.